Okay, man, it has happened. Welcome to Game Hype Live. I'm Prince Nerd, and man, I'm like almost speechless, man. I was already so hyped about this whole event with Nintendo revealing Direct, and I did watch it. I wanted to live stream it, but I just wanted to be a fan and just listen and see what Nintendo what they was coming with. So I pretty much just this is my recap. Uh, the Direct is what a little over an hour, so I'm just gonna go through and recap. I'm gonna kind of like skim through it. But yeah, man, this is the best Nintendo Direct that I have ever seen. I mean, like like even the Direct a couple of days ago, it was good. I kind of like some of the Nintendo indies and all that, but this one right here, like really, really done it. So man, let's jump into it. I really think
In the
I
classic
think it's
Grand
gonna offer something new to Mario Kart because especially like with like people been playing it like every release, from the GameCube to the some pretty good players. I played online. I'm like always last. So I think this is gonna be like something that I probably could really get into. Um, I think just to have it so open world and everything. So this is like a dope announcement, even though we've seen it previously.
Prix, race through 4 courses in a bid for first place.
Yeah, so excited for this. They showed the.
I'm still ahead of all of you
Now,
guys.
one thing I want to point out when I seen the dock, I kind of was when I was like, yo, it's a little thicker in the back. But I'd say that for a little later. And I was kind of like, what is that? Um, but I'll come back to that. And again, I'm just going to skim here.
That was me. That was you. I think. So quick.
So
Oh no!
another part was like, before I get too far in this video, I think Nintendo Switch, like just from the beginning, has been like one of the most talked about consoles in like the last 10 years. I'm talking about what the OG Switch, like when it was announced way back in 2015, codename NX, and you had all these speculations, who was designing, I'll go over that another time as far as like, when it was back in daylight, was AMD going to do it, was it NVIDIA, all that. And then it turned out, NVIDIA was doing it. So leading up to this today, I kind of was just like the last 2 3 days. I kind of just like, okay, let me step out of Rumorville, or whatever, because even with the original Switch, even after the Switch was released in 2017, it was always like, oh, the Switch Pro is coming, the Switch Pro is coming. Then they released the Lite, and it's like, oh yeah, but the Switch Pro is coming. Um, then we got the OLED model. So if you really look at it, like, man, I think this is the Switch 2 and this unveil is just like something that many Nintendo fans, gamers, been waiting for, like a more powerful console. Something that's really, like next gen and doesn't feel so far behind, even in terms of like the Steam Deck or even like mobile games as far as like the CPU. So um, I kind of like step. I did, see that the C button was revealed in through the Nintendo Today app, and that was like probably like the last thing I read. So here, when they revealing the Connect, it's for friends. I think that's pretty dope. I did think, some of the image quality was a little grainy. I mean, that was about it, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be updated.
Wait.
I think
It can
like
pick up your speaker.
you can talk across the room, like voice chat, and it has that type of technology for noise canceling. I think that's really impressive. Playing online and like you zoned out, you playing, whatever, and you just hear people with the background, people, family, you got music playing or whatever. So if it has that, so I guess that I'm wondering if that's like a AI feature. We heard a lot of like AI feature, and one thing I didn't expect Nintendo to kind of do, just touch base there, is I didn't expect them to come out and talk specs. I didn't expect them to have like Nvidia engineers or all of them come out and hey, this is what we did. So Nintendo, they kind of just revealing the tech through actual uh, case uses, like how you would play. So I believe that's pretty dope.
Okay, nice.
It does look beautiful. It's opaque.
And you can use this feature in handheld mode too, letting you easily chat with friends and family. If you open the chat menu and turn on game screen sharing,
Good job. There we go.
you can also share your game screen.
Did you see someone just like go on top of that dinosaur?
Really? They can do that?
Can do it?
You guys, I just did it.
I want to do it too.
Oh, shoot. Oh, he's trying to eat me.
Okay, I got it.
You know, so just looking at this, I think that's, you know, it's kind of like what case scenario would you just like want to share your game screen with friends? I think it'd be dope, especially like doing like let's say multiplayer adventure games. You know, you're on a quest and you know it's like, hey, well, meet me in this area, or this how you get here, or something like this. I think that could be a pretty tight feature that, you know, gamers like, hey, this is where I'm at, you know, follow this. Yeah, so that's pretty innovative. I want to see how that's utilized more in games. They started this back even with like the Game Boy, the DS, you know. So I like that Nintendo has continued to keep doing that. So before I get too far here, I did want to go back because
Play games and hang out.
talking about the, you know, the game share feature, that's kind of been around, but I think that's still cool. But I missed the part.
How did you get hit by a bow?
I was talking about, you know, as far as the screen share feature, and I noticed. Let me see if I can find it.
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me? Hello?
The right Joy-Con 2, we've added a new C button.
Introducing
But I
Game
noticed,
Chat, a new feature for Nintendo Switch 2.
One of the guys he was telling them, you know, just gotta go up this wall right here. So that was one of the points. You know, I'm looking like, you know, it could be helpful. You know, you playing MMO or a large game. You know, you may be in different areas and you're trying to meet up or team up somewhere.
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me? Hello?
You gotta get above that wall that's to your left.
You're almost there, though.
It's just like the wall. Like if she gets past the wall.
This is where I have to do a little
So,
wall
So,
ride.
yeah, that, you know,
So everyone can watch them play.
Oh, I think I know where you are.
I kind of was like, you know, okay, it's, you know, still hype now. I think like this is amazing. So I'm just going to, again, this is my recap. Just going to kind of take through some of like my favorite parts and really what got me like super hyped about the Switch 2.
Actually, guys, I got a call coming right now, so I'll be right back. Yeah.
Okay.
Here, you can quickly and easily mute yourself and more. And there's this.
Okay, so
By connecting this
at first I was like, okay, you know, the room was okay. It has two USB-C ports, one on the top, one on the bottom, and again, okay, is it for accessories, or just for an additional charging? This was dope because it turned out to be both. One of the things with the camera that I really did like is, you know, they were showcasing it, you know, along with the chat features. It looked like it has interaction with motion control. I noticed in some of the games, you know, when they was hitting the blocks and dancing, I was like, okay, well, is that kind of like I don't want to say connect, but I guess that's the best way, you know. So, you know, a couple of questions, you know, I was really thinking like, okay, what kind of, you know, tech is running on that? So at some point they did show, I think it was when they get to Mario Party 8, or Mario Party Jamboree, excuse me. It looks as if they're, you know, using motion control. I'm not sure. I have to go back through, because I'm gonna get to like when I really kind of got really hyped about this, because it was when here at this point. So by the time they get to
On Nintendo Switch, even if you just have one game,
And even though they didn't go over like hardware specs, again, I didn't expect them to be like, oh, we're using the NVIDIA, blah, 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 blah. I didn't expect for them like, hey, it's 12 gigs of RAM, 16. I knew they wasn't going to do that. But this what I really did not expect.
system itself.
映像をご用意しましたのでご覧
Please take a look.
This is when I just
At 7.9 inches, Switch 2 has a bigger built-in screen. Here's how that compares to Nintendo Switch. The system's thickness remains the same. With approximately double the pixels compared to Switch, you can enjoy games in greater detail on the 1080p screen.
and this is really,
The screen supports up to 120 frames.
this kind of just blew my mind because I kind of figured they was gonna have to at least do a 1080p screen. I figured they probably wasn't gonna do OLED because it's gonna cost more, but I would have never thought they was gonna do a 120 frames per second. I kind of just set up. I was like, wow, because Nintendo's not gonna. They're gonna optimize gaming for their titles, different things like this. That, and I mean, if it would have been like 60 or 90 frames, I would have been like, but this part, I was like, okay, well, Nintendo really thought about all those games, and I'm bringing this point up because, like, I still have my OG Switch, love it. I think Nintendo, going back to like all the speculations, like the NX and when it shipped, and there was a lot of us like, oh man, could have used a better processor, processor, GPU, whatever. It turned out it was the Tegra X1. If you go back, the Switch, 8 years old now, but if you go back, it was like, but maybe to use the X2, so by the time you get through all that and this come out, Nintendo really like hit a sweet spot. I mean, it was like the games looked good when they first came. I think they've done an amazing job because this X1 chip is old. I remember having the Tegra, whatever that tablet was with the stylus, and that's pretty much the chip that's in here. And so when all the rooms was talking about like the Switch Pro and all that, and then we got the Switch Lite, and then by the time the OLED, I remember I was gonna trade this and get the OLED, but then it was like, well, they just did like a little bump, and I think when it was Dot or whatever, I think it was called Codename Mario or something. And then what happened is around that time, if I recall correctly, somebody in the comments let me know the timeline on it. The Steam Deck came. The Steam Deck was announced, and I was like, you know what? I'm a desktop. I play this more in tabletop mode anyway. I dock it most of the time. I do like the fact that it's, I do play like when I'm traveling or something like that. This is my go-to system. The battery life is great. All that. However, I didn't think it was kind of really worth it just for the OLED because I play it mostly and I dock it most. I play it in dock mode. So I ended up getting the Steam Deck. Love this because I got a large pretty large Steam Deck library or Steam library. So I wanted to start catching up on a lot of those games PC wise. Then it was like, oh well, you can put different stories. It's like you can nerd out, geek out on it. So and the thing I say about, I was amazed what they done with the OG. I mean, yeah, with the OG Switch. Like when it was like, okay, Overwatch came to it. It looked good. Dragon Ball Z. I played that on PS4 and PS5. That game looked great, but it still looked amazing on this system. I'm just trying to remember like some, like Doom, MK11. And this is where it started running the problem. Like, okay, while we was craving for more, like, I guess you could say, graphical processing, um, because at some point, it's like after about 5-6 years into the Switch, maybe even sooner, you started getting that like, oh, but it's running on the Switch though, and you have people do comparison. Even Digital Foundry will go in and hey, here's the frames per second, and after a while it was like, oh yeah, like it's good it's on the Switch, but it's not as polished a lot of times. But overall, I still I like to be able to. And I'm gonna get more into like when they do some of the game reveals, because I really don't double dip just because they had ported MK11 to this. I support it. I went and bought it. I thought it was great. I thought it played fine, but again, I played it on PlayStation, all that, and you could tell the difference. It's like, come on, it's kind of like day and night. But gameplay wise, I thought it ran smooth. I thought it was good. It looked really great in handheld mode, but then when I docked it, I was like, yeah. So even when I got my Steam Deck, I ended up double dipping, bought MK11 again, and look, this thing, it looks amazing. It looks great. However, the problem with the Steam Deck is the battery life. Now it's a game, I bought Street Fighter 6. I think I was playing that, even 2K. Now I have 2K on my Switch. Can play that for hours, turn Steam Deck, probably hour and a half, 2 hours. Battery is like it's pretty much gone. So when I seen, so that was one of the things, going along the route, the lifespan of the Switch is great battery life, great titles came to it, some good ports, even though it's like a lot of older titles, but over the last 2 years or so, if it's a high end game, it's kind of like you could just see the age. It's not as clear. You got to do all these cuts and tricks. So, but overall, I was impressed what Nintendo and developers was able to do with the Switch. So when I get here and it's like, wait, 120 frames per second on the Switch too. So I think that's amazing. That they really went that extra, to put all that in. Now, of course, like I said, I know a lot of it's saying, wait, like, oh, could have been OLED, but I don't think, now since then, I have seen the price of the Switch 2, and we'll talk about that later on in the video. But I think if they would have went OLED, it would have been even more than that. And dope.
Frames per second, allowing for smoother gameplay in supported titles.
And this is stuff we seen, back in February. They just wanted some detail. And this is one of my pet peeves now. While I wait until like I said, I'm just the summary of this. When the Joy-Cons first came out, when I first got my Switch, I thought these things was pretty innovative. I was like, yo, Nintendo, they're going to do something innovative with their control. They have on pretty much every system. I don't really recall a system that they didn't do something different with their control. And I love these Joy-Cons when they first came out, until I bought the Switch Pro controller. And I think I ended up getting, it was Mario Odyssey, and it had the controller bundled. And I was in Walmart, and I was like, yo, what? And it was like $10. It was included, like, digital download. And after I played with the Pro controller, I fell out of love. I was just like, I don't know. It's like I still use them, but if I didn't have like the whatever, the little dot whatever with it, I started traveling with my Pro controller. I just did. I'll set it up, and so when I first got this, I thought it was pretty decent. So I am happy to see that they because after a while I was like, okay, this is kind of too small. With some friends playing Mario Kart, this was years ago, and I ended up using the smaller one. This kind of felt cramped, and again, I had no issue with the first. I guess I had it for like a year or so before I bought the Pro controller, and I was like, oh, this is pretty, innovative. It's pretty neat. It's not the best, it's not like I'm gonna play 8 hours with a Joy-Con or 4 or 5 hours in a setting, but just to have fun with friends, pass a controller to someone, they was cool. So I'm very happy that they, um, enlarged them, and I think that's, I probably would like these better, because after the Pro controller, I very seldom use my Joy Cons. It was just hard. It was like, the Pro controller. I still think it's an amazing controller. It's like one of my favorite. Which they, also revealed the Switch 2 Pro controller, which looks amazing as well.
SR buttons are bigger for greater comfort and control when playing with a Joy-Con 2 held horizontally. The left and right sticks are now larger.
Before we go on the mouse control again, and I ended up buying like a little thumb pad or whatever, joystick pad or whatever. And again, that was another thing. Before, just thought, oh, especially Odyssey, I would play in, and then they never felt comfortable to me after that. So it's good, and I think rumors say that it has the Hall effect. So and I did. These are my second, actually it's my third pair of Joy-Cons, because I did get the Joy-Con Drift. Sent back, Nintendo sent me a new pair, and I hope the new Joy-Con on the Switch, the Joy-Cons 2 is sturdy. These things break so easily. I had my Switch. I didn't even play my Switch for a while, and I opened my game case, and literally the case was just cracked. I mean, and on both of them, it was like, yo, these was in the case. So, well, at first, the screws in the back, they somehow cracked and fell out, and they just like gradually, kind of just. So I really do hope they have a better build quality. And my only issue with the Joy-Con is, like, if you go to GameStop, Walmart, wherever you get your game from, even now they still $80. And I'm like, how, Nintendo? How? 8 years later, they still the same price. So I hope they do something different with this, or at least have a better build quality. But I still love the innovation of these. I mean, I think they really, to make the Switch what it is and give it its portability and functionality. They did great on these.
Each Joy-Con 2 controller can be used as a mouse to play with compatible games. Both the left and right Joy-Con 2 support mouse controls. By adjusting the audio balance between...
I want to kind of like fast forward, speed through this because, and again, with that mouse control, that's the main thing. I really hope that the quality of them is, sturdier, or just a better build quality, because if you're going to be using them that much, I just did not get why my second pair of Joy-Cons just fell apart. Because when I wasn't playing it, I had to an official Nintendo case, so it wasn't like some cheap third party case from China on eBay. No, it was like just open up, like, yo, how are you cracking and bending and breaking? So I never, again, I ended up buying another pair. Nintendo didn't cover that, I don't think so. But going back, moving on to the to this mouse feature. Let me see. The game that they showed here, I thought was pretty innovative. Okay, while I get to the game, So I had mixed feelings about this.
Nintendo Switch 2 comes with 256 gigabytes of internal storage, 8 times that of Nintendo Switch.
I thought this is initially I was hyped. I was like, oh wow, 256 gigabytes of built-in storage. I think that should be enough. But then again, once it was confirmed that this is a 4K system, and now that they talking about the hardware, going my point earlier, like when I seen the dock, I was like, yo, the dock looks, thicker in the back. And then, they can confirm, it has a fan, which they'll get that. So I'm kind of, just summarizing because I'm taking, most of everybody have watched the rec. So I was like, this. It seemed like the Switch 2, even though they haven't put specs up, anything like that. I think they put some power into it. Where developers are going to probably push it and have larger titles for storage. But I think 256 is good. I knew it wasn't going to be like no terabyte or nothing, but again, depending on what size the game, the file size come in, we'll see. So at first I was like, yeah, 256, but then as I started seeing some of the quality of the games that we'll see later, I was like, wait, is that going to be enough? Now of course you have your SD cards and but yeah, this was again, this is dope. I was like, okay, that's a nice upgrade. But I think even in the OLED, they only did what, 64, which I guess some most people are satisfied with it, but I just like maximum space, even though I still do prefer physical media. When I first got my Switch, I just knew, I was like, oh, because I had the 3DS and all that, and at some point, especially traveling on planes, I used to always be scared that it was gonna fall in between. So when the Switch came out, I was like, oh, I'm gonna do away with all physical media. I'm like, and then for some reason I got my Switch and I was like, nah, I want my cartridges. I want my physical. But I do have a lot of digital games on the Switch as well. So for me, it's like it's a mixed thing. If I'm gonna buy more physical, probably still. SD cards, not really that bad. They not too expensive. However, they did point out these will only be using Express, so those tend to be a little more, but they not too expensive.
Storing your game downloads, save data, and more. Reading and writing data is also faster.
So here we go. And again,
use the Nintendo Switch 2 dock to connect to your TV and enable.
And this is just another where I was just like, my mind was blown. I was like, yo, 4K. So that was confirmed because it was, I've seen some article and I was like, man, I'm not going to read. It's like, one more night before the direct. And it was like, oh, Nintendo developers said that the Switch 2 didn't have 4K output. And a part of me was just like, like, you think the Switch been out, what, 8 years? So to have a Switch 2, and you figure they're going to probably let this stay on the market for another 8 years. 5 years, we'd be in 2030. So to think like, oh, in 2031, 32, the Switch 2 won't have 4K gaming. It kind of was like, So once I seen this, I was like, okay, that's amazing. That I was so hyped. It was like, yo, this is what I wanted. This is what we wanted. And the fact that they have included a fan, additional cooling on the dock, I think Nintendo probably has put packed some power into this system that's going to surprise us over this next life cycle of the Switch 2, because it's like the OG Switch. It's just like, this is what you got. This is what it's like, hey, everything, we got some vents up top. They kind of nerfed it, and even though they was I forget the specs of X1 right off. You know, it was like, oh, it had 4K output, but I think that shit was more like for video. You know, again, I had that in the Tegra uh, Shield, I believe it was, and it was, you know, about I think it was the 8-inch tablet, or seven, I believe. So that shit was dated, but they didn't do anything to like over clock, you know, to push its boundaries to that. They actually toned it down, you know, nerfed it, so we could enjoy, you know, hey, when you dock it, get some more voltage, you know, the game's gonna look better, you know, upscale a little bit, but in handheld, it's gonna um, run at slower speeds.
On Nintendo Switch 2, you can play Nintendo Switch 2 games, as well as compatible Nintendo Switch games.
So, and here's another reason why I just thought this was amazing. I was really hyped at this because I just counted my physical games. I got like 35 games or so, not even including my digital. Um, and the truth of the matter is, I have not completed 100% of most of my games. I mean, I've played them over the years. I play this one, you know, get halfway, stop, come back. So that's another thing. I'm like, I'm glad that Nintendo made that right move and didn't try to do some, you know, hey, buy this game again, buy that game again type deal, and you can just move your, you know, we can move our Switch library over to the Switch 2. Now we about to get into the gaming section, and to be honest, I thought this was like going to be a demo, like we can kind of like download today or something. You know, but I was like, okay, this is cool, you know. But I actually thought this was going to be like something, you know, they just like, hey, you know, at this point, I kind of did think they was going to like get into like the, you know, what GPU and all that they use, what's powering the Switch. But, you know, it was like, well, you know, this is going to be, you know, a paid game. And I was like, okay, I know Nintendo do a lot of fun, quirky games. So this is interesting, but at some point I was like, okay, where are the games? I was kind of, because I wasn't keeping up with the time, and I really didn't like, I wasn't up hours and hours before this. I literally just kind of got up, was like, yo, let me check this out, and I wanted to live stream, but I didn't want to. I had all these back rumors, you know, and stuff, and I was like, man, I don't want to be on camera like disappointed, you know, like, oh, it only has 720p, and it only has 1080p output. So up until this point, you know, I was satisfied with it. When I seen 120 frames per second, I was like, okay, that should be good. They're not going to talk specs, but they're going to show, you know, like gameplay scenarios, and I was pretty cool up to this point. I was still like, okay, this is good. And again, so as I was saying, I still just love cartridge. I love to collect games, so I love to see. I'm an old school gamer. I do buy digital games, and speaking of which, it's so weird because I have a Steam Deck which has no physical games whatsoever. Just you know, the Steam store or whatever, and I'm perfectly fine with that for some reason. But when it comes to console games, I still want physical media. It's something that's just the gamer nerd in me. I still want something. Uh, you know, I guess that's just like where I grew up. You know, from Nintendo consoles, the Sony, you know, from PlayStation, all that. So that I have that divide where Nintendo console, I want as many physical games. So here's my baby, because I just I love the Switch Pro controller. It's somewhere. I think it's in and again the new addition to the buttons. Again, I think that's gonna be dope. I never really been like one of those super hardcore games where you need uh extra buttons on the back. I'm glad they kept it simple, because I think like some of the like the Xbox Pro controller and the PlayStation. I think they got what, like 4 back there. I never really. I guess that's, I never been like, oh, I had to have all the extra buttons to play, a game or be really good at. But it's a nice addition. I know like gamers, especially something like Call of Duty, shooting games and all that. People quick reloads and all that. But that's a nice addition. But I like the look of this. Again, I was so happy with the OG Switch Pro controller, and this just look like it's just an improvement on it. Again, the C button, they got an audio jack, which my biggest gripe with some of the third party um, Switch controllers is that most of them are corded. They don't have HD rumble, even if they had the headphone jack in them. So I think I found some. I bought like two Switch Pro controllers, and I found some controller off Amazon. I forget what it is, but it was like some weird. And I didn't want to hook a lot of third party stuff. Like wouldn't buy like a third party Joy-Con, nothing like that, because I think in the beginning it was like, oh, it could mess up the system XYZ. But it was only one controller throughout the lifetime of the Switch that I had that I used, and it still had to be quarter, but it had the rumble. It didn't have HD rumble, but the rumble function on it, and it had a headphone jack. When I looked at all the other like these what's Power A, I never liked any of them because, and I know if you enjoyed them, that's fine, but it didn't you didn't have the motion control, you didn't have the rumble, but you would have the headphone jack, you would have and I just never understood that with the Switch controller offering. So I pretty much just fell in love with and stuck with the Switch Pro controller. So I'm glad that it does have a headphone jack.
Nintendo Switch 2 launches on June 5th.
So
We're very
and I did look up. So after this video, because I was hitting refresh. Actually, I want to check now. Because I was seeing like GameStop or Best Buy. I had my phone, tablet, everything open, and so far nothing went up. And then I did see that the Switch 2 website did go live, and they actually I found the page where they do list the price, and for the Switch 2 bundle with Mario Kart World is $4.99, and then just without that is $4.49. So that's official. I've seen that on their website. I even went again. They didn't talk specs. They just said custom NVIDIA. We'll go over that another time. I think the Joy-Con 2, they said 20 hours of battery life. I forget how many milliamps it had, but okay. So I'm trying to remember my talking points. So he's going through, and I'm going to bring up one of my main concerns. Now, before I go on this, another thing that just had me so hyped, I was sitting here feeling like a little kid. The games that they showed that they want to go through, I just was graphics, all that good. But here's the issue that I have with this briefly. I don't know, because I just stated I have a lot of Switch games that I did not 100% complete. So it's good that they're doing these enhanced games. However, and just going to kind of skim through here so we follow, Now this is what I'm going back to. So when I was saying, does this have, and I'm going to come back to what I'm saying. So does this have, or do they have Joy-Cons in their hands? Hold on. Okay, so they look like they have Joy-Cons. Or do they? I can't. Okay. So I was wondering, does the Switch 2 camera, is it able to recognize motion, without, the Joy-Con? So again, I was super hyped, and I was just like, okay, are they holding Joy-Con? I was just kind of like, okay, they was getting I felt it started off a little slow. I knew he was gonna do that, but by the time they get to this part and get to showing the games, so up until here, I was kind of, like, okay, this is good. This, you know. So this part, yeah. So okay, yeah, they holding Joy. So here's one thing that may concern me is, let's get to it. Okay.
Nintendo Switch 2 players who already own Super Mario Party Jamboree can upgrade to Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Jamboree TV by purchasing an upgrade pack.
This is
Please look for.
it's kind of like I'm having mixed emotions about this because we go ahead and this is why, because I'm just gonna be honest. I love Zelda. Um, I remember like um Wii U. I wasn't gonna get a Switch. I didn't buy the Switch when it first came out. I bought Breath of the Wild on Wii U, and after about a couple hours of playing it, I think after I done whatever and I seen the size of the map, I was like, oh wow, like I can't stay in the house that long. So it's the only game I ever sold back to GameStop. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna sell this, go get my Switch, and I'll play this on the Switch. Cause I was like, that game was massive. I was like, yeah, you have to be able to take that with you. Now again, I'm a dock mode game player. So I probably played 50% of Breath of the Wild. I know it's 8 years. Yeah, it's I do work, have a life and all that. So, but I do love gaming. So, to be honest, I have started over on Breath of the Wild probably like 4 or 5 times because it's like I would get the parts and it's like after going 2-3 months without playing, I'm like, yo, where am I at? Like what was I doing? So I played so many other games, on the Switch. I kind of just reserved Breath of the Wild. At some point, I was like, well, maybe this would be one of those. If I start streaming, I'll just get it out the way. By the time you get to the sequel, and then as they're going to show here, the Hyrule Warriors, and at some point, I was like, okay, I want to play them in order, then play the Hyrule Warriors series, see what that's about. And my issue with this here now, as we're going through, now it's like, okay, well, you're going to pay for the enhancements, and so my issue with that is, I remember, like just all the rumors of what the Switch 2 was going to be. It's like, oh well, it's using AI to upscale the games. It's using super, whatever Nvidia is using. And I was like, oh, that's going to be dope. That's going to be dope. Like, you get your game and you can just like pop it in and it should read. So I guess it depends on, how much is it. Because you look at Breath of the Wild. I'm just talking about Breath of the Wild. It was Breath of the Wild. What was that? However much it was. But then you had the expansion pack. Then, so now it's like, okay, well, if you want these enhanced features, you don't have to do it. I know it's optional. But, I was like, wow, so I thought like the enhancement mode for like games, that you have on, the Switch, the OG Switch, that would just be handled and, by the processor itself. So that kind of surprised me at that point. I was like, wait, I thought the app was dope. I don't know if I would use it, but again, for me, that probably would help because at times I was like, wait, what do I gotta go? What I gotta, and that's so I jump on Legend of Zelda like periodically, but sometimes it's just like I'm just running around. I'm just like, yo, like I try to find something. It's like, oh, that's right, I'm supposed to be doing this, and sometimes I just want to start it all over and just kind of, um, yeah. So that kind of was like I'm having mixed emotions on that because I was thinking, for all the rumor and the hype and the talk, I was thinking that that would be something that the chip being backwards compatible and having these advanced upscaling capabilities and If you go on Nintendo website, well, they showed you on dock mode. You can select. It goes all the way to 4K. But also, you go on their website and they show you all, the different resolution that you can choose from. So I thought that would just be something that automatically, Nintendo done. Even with Metro Prime 4, it's like, okay, well, if you buy it on the Switch, so then so the thing is like, okay, what is that, a $20 upgrade? Is a $30 upgrade? I think that's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to set, like a different, it's going to, it has the potential to shape the industry in a way, because we already know, you hear about, Grand Theft Auto 6 may be $100, and Nintendo, they done pretty good. Eventually when the Switch first came out, they kept their games at lower than the competitive, but then eventually, some of their games went up. I think they didn't do it till Zelda, or some of the newer titles, which is understandable. But yeah, it's like, are we gonna have to pay for all? You see this? That's what I'm saying. Like Mario Party Jamboree, both of the Zeldas, I haven't played Kirby in years, to be honest, but Zelda and Metroid, those games that I'm really looking forward to play. But it's like, okay, well, do I have to buy both? Am I going to So I just found that kind of interesting, that it's not going to be like, it's not going to auto upscale, so to speak. And I guess if it wasn't programmed in the game, you do have to go back and do some coding and stuff like that. But I kind of just was thinking they would do that on a system architect level, where it's like, hey, this is backwards compatible. It's running at this. Now we got all this extra memory and processing power. So, but I don't. I'm not a game programmer, so I guess this is what it's going to be. Again, I thought this was dope. I think this is like, even when I seen like ARMS, and Nintendo was like, hey, this is how you can use the Joy-Cons. I was like, yo, that's pretty dope. I like that. So this, look like it could be pretty fun. I really like when I seen the detail on that rim. That's when I really like, yo, this they the graphics is going to look good on the Switch. So as you're going to see as we go further on, man, I started becoming impressed even more. But the mouse mode, I mean, I think this I don't, it's kind of like, this is like one of those at home games, I guess. If you're going to, because you're not going to, I don't think you're going to be in public, rubbing your knees. I don't know. But yeah, this looks pretty good. This looks okay. I'm especially for game share feature. For friend, hey, let's play a couple. It's cool. Like, hey, I'll go buy that for. But yeah, this looked okay. I think this could be fun. Especially get a couple of friends, or or it has some online play. And I think I heard somebody say this is like the Rocket League with on wheelchairs or something. And I was like, well, but yeah, this like to show the innovation of the controller. And I think the other game is Civilization 7 they show. And when I see like summer 2025, it's like it's been a long time coming. We haven't waited, but yeah, it seems like this is not too far off. We're in April, and I think this is just going to, like, before you know it, we're just going to be all lined up, camping out at Best Buy, GameStop, or crashing websites. And okay, this is where I
is in dire need of repair.
Really just was like, yo, being that the Nintendo Switch sold so well, and I didn't really, I didn't feel like the Switch was going to be a flop. I liked what they had done with it. I was like, okay, that's cool, but I knew it wasn't going to be like some graphical powerhouse like even people like, oh, it's on par with PS4 and all that. It's like, nah, like at some point the Switch games, had some good ones. I think they've done a lot of um, programming techniques, and the games look good. Oh, another game I remember, even Warframe. And I wasn't, I seen Warframe on PC, never played, and then it came Switch. I was like, they put that on the Switch. So like early days Switch, I was impressed what they was doing with it. I really was. I mean, up until like 2-3 years ago, and then you get game, they kind of talking about like the more intense, but they pushed the chip that was just, I know it take the development time and all that, easily 10 years old, 2 years, 2-3 years prior to the Switch being being used in a Nintendo Switch. So when it came to this part and they started showing these games, I was like, okay, the Switch 2 is going to crush it come holiday season. Um, it is going to you probably ain't going to find these things too. I mean, I know Nintendo and Prime, they're going to have enough availability and all that, but we're going to see, because once I started seeing the games, I mean, I was like sitting on the edge, just like, yo, these games look amazing. These look great, and that's why I bring up the Steam Deck, because um, you know, those PC games, and I think they use a more power hungry AMD chip. The games look great. Sometimes I connect them to the TV, but for mobile, the Steam Deck, love it, but that battery, I see why Nintendo really went with like I see why Nintendo really went with like a lower power chip, because like you can have all these amazing graphics, but then you getting what, an hour and a half of gameplay, and you tether it to the wall with a power adapter. So that's what made me satisfied. A part of the reason satisfied, and it had plenty of games and content on it. So I take both of these. I travel with my Steam Deck and my Nintendo Switch, but the Switch is just a console that I can just play for hours, and I don't have to worry about, after I play, a couple hours of this game, I go to turn it back on and it's at like 15% and the battery beeping. And that's the case with the Steam Deck. And I know people be like, oh, well, you can go in and change the resolution and all that, but I just want to play. So the CDs, the games that they showing and the quality of them, I was like, yes, because Nintendo, I think they know how to do a great job on optimizing and letting probably Nvidia and whoever their partners were, like, this is what we want. And I definitely know this is going to get battery life is going to be way better than the Steam Deck.
You can see them, can't you? The rays of grace that guide you through your burden.
20 frames per second in handheld mode. Yeah, this is nice. This is like, okay, this is.
Hey, I'm Greg Kasabin from Supergiant Games, here to say that Hades 2 is coming to Nintendo Switch 2.
This is what, I think, like, out of all the years of like, yo, Switch Pro coming, this is all we wanted. It's like, great deal with, the form factor, everything. I still, again, I play this for a couple hours, and I again, love what, Valve done with this. But it's heavy, and then I grab my Switch and it's like, yo, this is just so much like manageable and light. Okay, so here we go. This I
本体を持ち寄っての対戦はもちろん
just jumped up my seat now. I'm trying to look, because I play Street Fighter 6 on my Steam Deck, and I'm not going to go too much into the like comparison just yet because it could be, you know, but again, I think the battery life and all that is just going to be way better. Like I remember won a game and I had my Steam Deck fully charged and I started playing Street Fighter 6. Was playing online and yo, I think I didn't even get. It was like an hour and a half, and I looked and it's like, what? I mean, battery was like gone, even if that. And I was just like, yo, what? Like, so I typically, you know, if I just want like a real uh, a long gaming session, it's like I'm still docking it. You know what I'm saying? I'm still connecting to my TV. You know, and it's like, well, you know, if I'm just out, like, yo, and won't do a comparison, but I know as far as graphics, the amiibos, I was like, okay, amiibos back. I did kind of collect the amiibos in the beginning. Well, back on the Wii U when they started, and then after a while, I was like, okay, I gotta stop this. I used like most of them with Super Smash Bros on the Wii U, and then you know he still worked on the Switch, so I had to put them up because I would go in stores and like, yo, why am I? And it's just like you know collector stuff. Um, but yeah, this is interesting. You know, Amiibo's back, but yeah, and for this to be um same day, and you know, I think like even I was thinking about like, okay, Capcom, you know, jump back and been supporting Nintendo, you know, since the launch of the Switch, but you know, you had the collection, but you know, it was nothing they was like they didn't like bring over like a lot of the Street Fighter games like that was graphics heavy. So yeah, I was like, okay, I normally don't double dip. I already own Street Fighter 6, but I'm gonna buy it again day one on the Switch 2 because I just think I'm gonna get longer play time and uh, undock mode and be able to take with me, and I'm not you know, so yeah, I was, and this was a surprise to me. This was like, I got so hyped. I was like, wait, Street Fighter 6, and even though I had it since it released, but yeah, this is this is a buy for me.
Initiating Arsenal boot sequence. Weapon safety mechanism confirmed.
Thanks for the warm welcome! This planet will be ours.
The Sovereign Axiom, the Trinitas, has almost completed a weapon that was created to destroy all humanity.
No! Because we're in the middle of a war. Don't you get it?
I won't just stop you. I'll tear you apart!
Like, this just looks, yeah, and I was like, yo, this, it looks, current gen, I guess I want to say. Even with Split Faction, I've been seeing it on like Steam Store, and again, because I know the Switch about to come out, I didn't know what third party support they would have. I've heard you know good reviews, good things about this, but I'm like probably going to pick this up on a Switch too. Yeah, man, it's like I was again blown away. I haven't played. I'm not a Madden head. My brothers are, and I pick it up casually. You know, play. I think uh, the last time I played Madden, the 25 whatever, the controls. You know, the controls were so different. I was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna get crushed. But to see like EA back, somebody tell me down in the comments when the last time Madden has been on a Nintendo system. I think the only thing they put on a Switch was FIFA and then FC 24, whatever. So, yeah, man. I mean, I thought this was like a amazing, you know, a great start, you know, to see, um, you know, for them to like go through, um, you know, some of the tidbits, you know, hey, is this that, his out of control, or this that, and then when they started dropping the third party support, the games, I'm like, let's go. Like this is, you know, right now I'm just sitting here thinking like, I better be able to get a pre-order. And like day one. Like I think like right now they're talking like the 9th. And I have checked. I do need to. I'm gonna do this now. But as of checking, I'm recording this a couple hours after um the direct. I would just, on all my devices, like, yo, is anything live yet? So it's just gonna be like a constant day by day to day checking. Because sometimes I found out with some of the old pre-orders, even though you sign up and they tell you to put your email, I always got them late. Like, hey, we'll notify you with the pre-order, and by the time they go live, they just gone. So
The story of light and shadow that never fades is reborn.
these are the first generation Switch 2 games. So I think it's just going to only get better. I think by the time developers really learn the hardware, learn how to push it like they did on the OG Switch. Yeah, we're gonna be gaming out. We're gonna be gaming. Let me see which one is this. I forget. It was they started. Yeah.
龍が如くゼロ誓いの場所ディレクターズカットです発売日は Nintendo Switch 2の発売と同じ日
And here's where I really started thinking about
when the Zonai, who descended from the heavens,
the price of like
joined hands.
Them charging for the update, because when I seen this, I was like, wait a minute, I got a couple of Zelda games I gotta finish, and now it's another addition to the Hyrule Warriors, and this is a Switch 2 exclusive, but it's like it's like all the ones on the Switch is, and it's following that timeline. So I'm like, okay, Nintendo, like, why didn't the hardware just kind of upscale these? So again, this looks great, man. This looks good. It seemed like the YouTube crashed. Somebody let me know if anybody had this problem, because I remember at some point they were showing some of the games and I could hear like audio, but the screen the video just froze, and I even like hit refresh. But before I hit refresh, I went to the Nintendo Today app and it picked up on that, and I had to literally like close out my browser, open up another one, hit the home button on you, and it still went back into like where it was stuck at. So I was like, okay, the YouTube crashed, but so I caught some of it, a lot of it on the Nintendo Today app. I thought this was dope because man, this was big back in the day. Soul Calibur, because they had the Link was a exclusive character to the GameCube, and the other ones that they put on other systems. This I didn't play this one, so I'm gonna subscribe to this because it's been a while since I played F-Zero. Loved it on like Super NES and all that, but yeah, when I seen this, I was like, you know what? If I played it, I didn't play a lot of it and I hear that's one of the best ones. So. And let me know down in the comments, like, what was your favorite game? Like, what was your most hype moment, like, that you seen that? And then, again, I'm trying to think, was Borderlands 4, when was it announced for another system for this? I may be thinking about Beyond Good and Evil. I know that was announced years ago. So at one point, I was like, okay, was this announced for another system before? But again, I think this looks great, man. I think to have Gearbox up there and these, you know, not just third party support, but third party publishers and all that that's bringing some good up to date games to the Switch. I think with the Switch, the first one, you know, it was like, oh well, this is great because you know we knew the hardware was limited and all that, so it was like, you know, just had the first 4 or 5 years of the Switch, it was just these moments like, wow, they was able to port that to the Switch. Wow, look at this, you know. Then after a while, it was like, you know, you wasn't going to get like, you know. So for instance, coming up, and we'll just get to it, because I think this one the stream started freezing. Because I remember when I came back on the app, I had seen whatever that was with the game books. I missed this, so yeah. And I think by the time I seen on the stream, it was this, and I was like, yo. So it took me. So I missed a bit of it. Yeah. So I don't remember this, and I'm just skimming through it. I seen some of it when it came back in. Let me go back.
We are delighted to bring the immersive world of the dark future to Nintendo players for the first time. Cyberpunk 20...
I own Cyberpunk. I bought it when it first came out. It was a little buggy. I played, you know, once they did the patch update or whatever, and I haven't really played much since they did the update, the overhaul. And again, and one of the things that I really like with my Steam Deck, I bought it on GOG. And I'm gonna pause it because and I did the install. That was another thing with the Steam Deck. You know, the Steam library works great, and I'm bringing up the Steam Deck because it's like one of the reasons why I got it, because it was like, okay, well, I could play these AAA titles of high quality that I knew was not going to come to the Switch just because of the Switch capabilities. So having to go through all that, I mean, I am a nerd. But it's times I just want to play games. I don't want to go in and have to do all this, you know, hacking and all that. And I did get the Epic Store on the Steam Deck, and at one point it didn't work. It froze. Not the Epic Store, excuse me, the GOG store on the Steam Deck. I got the Epic Store, but some games would work, some wouldn't. You had to use Wine. You know, it was kind of like, you know. Then Cyberpunk started working. And then it stopped. So, you know, being I'm on the go most of the time, it's like, you know, I'm not going to pull out a laptop for, you know, 20 minutes of gaming. And, you know, and then, you know, if it's not plugged in, it's running, you know. So, yeah, so that's what I really had wanted the Steam Deck for. Now, it works fine just straight out the box with the Steam library, but, you know, you gotta watch a bunch of YouTube videos to get all these other launchers and storefronts operating on it. So by the time I came back in, I had just caught that last thing, then I seen, oh, Cyberpunk, and it was still loading. So I was on the Nintendo Today app, so it was kind of like I was looking back and forth. So I didn't need to see Cyberpunk 2077. But yeah, that's something like, okay, I would. So that's two games I already know: Street Fighter 6, Cyberpunk 2077. I'm gonna buy over just because of it for the Switch, because it's just you know, it's a Nintendo. I think they met the graphical demand that a lot of us looking for. All the, you know, where's the Switch Pro? Where's the Switch Pro? And then, you know, oh, you know, it's anytime now, because we want to be able to run these games or play these games on a Nintendo Switch console, along with, you know, Nintendo franchises. And here's where I felt like
Nintendo Switch 2で Final Fantasy 7
I was so, again, hyped and so happy because this game just launched on PC. What, somebody tell me that, I forget it. What, a month ago, 2 months ago, whatever. And I seen they even had a special on Steam, and I was about to buy this. I really was, because I was like, you know what? And I bought this on PlayStation, but I haven't had time to play it. By PlayStation, yeah, so it's like tucked away collecting dust somewhere. And I was about to buy Final Fantasy VII Remake. My brother was telling about it, great game, and then I was like, well, what's the difference? Because the expansion or the second one. But yeah, I was about to buy this on my Steam Deck a couple weeks ago, and again, so that's to see that on the Switch 2 and they announced, I'm like, yo, I mean this is one of the best Nintendo Directs that I just seen in a long time. I mean, it's like, again, just keep, you go through, you see the quality of the game, you see the variety of the games, and it's like Nintendo's gonna if Nintendo's gonna rule for the next couple of years, man. This is just gonna be one of those and see, yes. So I think my stream was messing up again because yeah. So some of this I watched it through, but yeah, it froze for a while, and it just I could hear the audio, but the video or something just paused in certain places. Yeah, and then it came back in during this part. Kind of remind me of it. And this right here looks. I think they showed that one. No, I'm jumping ahead, so I'm gonna let this rock out for a little bit. But the From Software game, and we'll get to it. Yeah, they ended that on, and this looks good. Again, Fortnite, not played from time to time. I'm trying to get out of a lot of just playing VR games. But you could tell the graphical fidelity on different systems. If I'm playing on my PC or you playing on another console, you can tell like when you play on the Switch. You know what I'm saying? Like when you drop, you can see the pixelation and all that stuff. And I'm not like the graphics whore, like, oh, I got it. But yeah, I like good looking games when they're designed to that level. Now, again, with some of the Nintendo games, you can, they not meant, to have that super realistic look like that. So it fits, and it's fine, and for those type of genre of games.
Close your eyes and contemplate now the moon, as befits the soon to depart.
I pray that you are able, carrier of blood.
I've read this supposed to be like a multiplayer online game or something. So I'm like, okay, like, yeah. And again, I don't know if the screen froze, but at some point I said, yo, they held this shot a little too long, man. Because sometimes I'm looking at my computer, I'm like, yo, what? Yeah. So it had to freeze. Like I stared at that for like a whole minute straight. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, is it going to do something? Is it going to jump up? So yeah, Nintendo pretty much broke the internet. Because I at the beginning it was straight, but as it went through, yeah, it started crashing. The audio and the video was behind. So I think that about concludes this, man. Well, again, this was the last one. Well, you got Kirby Air Ride. I'm gonna try to just summarize this video. To see all the other games, in between that, Cyberpunk 2077, Street Fighter 6, Elden Ring. It's like, okay, the Switch 2 is going to, I mean, will it outsell the original, the OG Switch? Don't know, but I think I think we're gonna get a lot more games than from AAA developers and games like and for the next generation, so to speak, that developers wasn't probably just knew that they could not do on the OG Switch. So man, this is why I'm super hyped about this. It's like, man, if I don't know, the thing is, like, at some point I had to come to terms, like when the OG Switch launched and it was like, oh, it's using the Tegra X1. It's kind of like, well, I don't know how much they can push it. Was very satisfied with it because again, with the game when they started, it was like, oh wow, they got that. They put that to the Switch, but then that kind of just faded out after like 5 years. The last couple of years, because like I think one of the last big titles was Ace Combat 7. Well, that game, I have that on. I may have that on PC and a PlayStation. That game, is quite old, but for them to put that over, it's kind of like, yo, they put that on the Switch for a chipset that is, so old and, was already dated. The Mario Kart World bundle is $4.99, and just the Switch 2 by itself is going to be $4.49. Which, I think that's a pretty good price. It's what, $100 more than the Switch OLED, and it's a nice bump in specs, and everything. So let me know what y'all think about the pricing on it. Tell me, how do you feel about the Switch 2? Like, are you hyped for it? Is it kind of like, it just didn't do it for you? Is it like, well, and I know it's a lot more mobile, Windows-based, Steam-based handhelds coming out. And I think what the average cost of them going to be anywhere from $500. I see some like $1,100 and all that. But again, I don't think you're going to get the battery life, nor the content that Nintendo provides. If you as far as like just Nintendo exclusive game. But my thing is just the battery life and the playability of it, man. That's why I still, I'm not going to it's like the Switch is the Switch, and the Steam Deck is the Steam Deck to me. But I just can't be like, oh, once I got my Steam Deck, I threw my Switch in the closet. No, because I could play my Switch way longer than I ever could play that Steam Deck unplugged. You like want to go. My Steam Deck, even in sleep mode, if I go 2-3 days, but it's like, yo, you wasn't even on. Why are you dead? Like, so yeah. But the Switch, it could, I don't play it for a week and come back and it's like it's minimum drain for me. So Nintendo did a great job on that. So I'm gonna wrap this up, man. I thought this was an amazing event. It was some moments where I was kind of like, by the time, about, I ain't gonna say halfway through, but about 20 minutes in, I was kind of like, all right, come on, Nintendo, come on, and they delivered, man. I'm so hyped. The biggest thing now is like keeping up with the being able to pre-order. We're in the time now where scalpers it is what it is. Nintendo has said they're going to work around all that, but that's yet to be seen. So man, thank you for tuning in. I'm Prince Nerd. This is my new channel, Game Hype Live. Put your comments down below. Let me know what you thought about it, and we'll chat, man. We're gonna talk about it. June is gonna be here like in no time. Let me know what games you're looking forward to. What launch title? If you already own Street Fighter on PlayStation or Xbox or whatever on PC, will you be getting it for the Switch? Do you think it'll be another buy of Cyberpunk? What games do you think want to be coming? The only game and I'll finish up with this. This is what I really thought would just crushed everything. If GTA 6 trailer would have popped up on this, yeah, man, I probably would have ran out the house or something. Yeah, I think if even at a later date, if Nintendo just comes and be like, yo, GTA 6 Switch 2 when it launched, yeah, I think it's gonna outsell on the. I think it'll sell more on the Switch 2 than other consoles. I'm serious, like, cause I mean it's just to have that where you can take that with you and come home and still at least playing in 4K. Yeah, I wouldn't buy it for any other system. I definitely would pick that up on the Switch 2 than any other system. So let me know what your thoughts, your comments, man. Come rap with me. All right, peace.